He was the Hitman, a six-division world champion, a Detroit warrior, and one of the most feared punchers in the ring's history. Thomas Hearns wasn't just a boxer, he was a legend in the ring. But now, at 66 years old, the fighter who once electrified millions is facing a very different kind of showdown. Rumors are flying around the ring. Talk of a fighter's declining health, a champion in critical condition, looking nothing like the legend we once cheered for. Some fans claim he's struggling to find his voice, while others believe he's losing his edge quickly. What went down with the Hitman? How did a champion of the ring fade into obscurity? This isn't merely a tale from the ring, it's a gut-wrenching reality check on the aftermath when the gloves are finally put down. The rise, the battles, the knockout, and now the hush. This is the heartbreaking last round of Thomas Hearns. Thomas Hearns entered the ring of life on October 18, 1958 in Memphis, Tennessee, as the youngest of 9 siblings ready to make his mark in the world of boxing. At the age of 5, he and his family made the big move to Detroit, Michigan. In the tough streets of the Motor City, the groundwork for a future champion was set, though no one could have foreseen the heights he would reach. Life in Detroit was a tough bout, and the streets were filled with challenges that didn't offer many safe corners. His mother, Lois Hearns, a fierce and dedicated woman, stood as the cornerstone of the family. She hustled through multiple jobs to ensure her family had what they needed, instilling the grit, determination, and drive in her kids to go the distance. Thomas would later reflect that his mother's strength was his first true lesson in what it means to battle. As a shy and lanky kid, Hearns wasn't your typical tough guy, but he possessed an unteachable quality, an inner hunger that set him apart in the ring. That relentless pursuit ultimately brought him to the Kronk Gym, a gritty, dimly lit boxing sanctuary tucked away in the basement of a Detroit recreation center. That's where he crossed paths with Emanuel Steward, the iconic trainer who would transform his career in the ring. Steward quickly recognized that Hearns was a true standout in the ring. At first glance, his lean build didn't shout, "knockout artist," but once Steward witnessed him in the ring, he was left in awe. With that extended reach, natural leverage, and a jab that strikes like lightning, Steward called him an unrefined powerhouse. Hearns' amateur career was a knockout, showcasing skills that left fans in awe. He built an impressive record of 155 victories and only 8 defeats. In 1977, he clinched the National Amateur Light Welterweight Championship, carving out his legacy in a city renowned for producing boxing legends. What set Hearns apart wasn't just his incredible skills in the ring, it was his unbeatable mentality. He was all about the fight, not chasing the spotlight or glory at that moment. He aimed to break free from the struggles of his past, driven by the desire to make his mother proud and transform the hardships of his upbringing into a powerful motivation. Detroit forged Hearns into a champion. It toughened him up, pushed him to his limits, but it also surrounded him with a crew that had his back. In Kronk, he discovered his ring of refuge. He sparred with future world champions, left it all in the ring, and forged an unbreakable bond with Steward that would stand the test of time. They weren't just crafting a fighter, they were forging a weapon of precision and power, shaped by struggle and fueled by relentless ambition. When he stepped into the professional ring in 1977, few could have foreseen that this quiet kid from Detroit would rise to become one of the most feared and revered champions in the annals of boxing. But the game plan was already in place. The fighter was born. Thomas Hearns stepped into the professional ring in 1977, mentored by the legendary Emanuel Steward, and it wasn't long before he caught the attention of boxing fans everywhere. Standing at 6 feet 1 inch in the welterweight division, he loomed large over his rivals with a staggering 78-inch reach, and that reach was packed with explosive knockout power. His jab snapped like a whip, and his right hand landed like a missile. In his early bouts, Hearns unleashed his fury on opponents like a fighter on a mission. From 1977 to 1980, he built an unblemished record, delivering knockout after knockout, which earned him the legendary title of the Motor City Cobra. But as his profile soared and the major bouts started to line up, a new moniker emerged, the Hitman, and it landed hard. The 1980s marked a legendary chapter in the ring, with Thomas Hearns shining as one of the era's most electrifying champions. In 1980, he claimed the WBA welterweight title by taking down Pepino Cuevas in just 2 rounds. Cuevas was a formidable knockout artist, but Hearns dismantled him, sending shockwaves through the boxing community. A new contender has stepped into the ring. Then came one of the most electrifying bouts of the decade, the 1981 showdown against Sugar Ray Leonard. Known as the Showdown, it was a clash of 2 champions at the peak of their game. Hearns dominated the early rounds with his sharp jab and impressive reach, but Leonard unleashed a relentless comeback that had the crowd on their feet. In the 14th round, Leonard landed a devastating blow that rocked Hearns, prompting the referee to jump in and halt the action. It was Hearns' first professional defeat, but it only fueled his fire to rise higher in the ring. Even in defeat, he showcased his fighting spirit. He made a stunning comeback. In 1984, Hearns stepped into the ring with Roberto Duran, a fighter renowned for his iron will and legendary resilience. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, and then the unexpected unfolded. Hearns delivered a devastating knockout to Duran in the 2nd round, marking the first and only time Duran faced such a brutal defeat. It was a pivotal moment that rocked the boxing world. But perhaps the most legendary moment of Hearns' career came in 1985, during his epic showdown with Marvin Hagler, known as The War. The bout went the distance of 3 intense rounds, yet it's hailed as one of the all-time classics in the ring. From the opening bell, Hearns and Hagler went toe-to-toe, trading heavy shots like true warriors in the ring. Hearns broke his right hand early in the bout, but he kept throwing punches like a true warrior. The ring was alive with intensity, showcasing raw power, fierce determination, and unmatched technique. In the 3rd round, Hagler unleashed a devastating right that sent Hearns to the canvas, sealing the fight in spectacular fashion. Even in defeat, Hearns gained legendary status for his part in that epic showdown. The fight was far from finished. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Hearns kept racking up those championship belts, climbing the weight classes, and making history as the first fighter to capture world titles in 6 different divisions. He took down Virgil Hill in 1991 to claim the light heavyweight title, solidifying his place in boxing history. Throughout his career, Hearns never backed down from a challenge. He went toe-to-toe with the elite. He was one of the iconic 4 kings, standing shoulder to shoulder with Leonard, Hagler, and Duran. And even as new champions rose through the ranks, Hearns' name stayed carved into the legacy of the sport. He was a warrior in the ring, fearless, and packed a punch that could finish the bout in an instant. "I just wanted to leave my mark," Hearns once said. "That's why I left it all in the ring." And he delivered. Every ounce of power, every drop of sweat. His legacy was forged in the ring, marked by sweat and pain, and it stands as legendary. Thomas Hearns' career was a knockout, truly legendary in the ring. But like so many legends who fought tooth and nail for that extra round, the toll eventually caught up to him. Even after his epic battles with Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, and Marvin Hagler had already etched his name in the annals of boxing history, Hearns continued to fight on. He didn't hang up the gloves in the late 80s like some thought he would. He continued to throw punches and battle it out well into the 1990s and then into the early 2000s. When he finally hung up his gloves, he had battled through 67 professional fights, enduring over 160 intense rounds against some of the fiercest competitors in the ring's history. But the fighter, no matter how resilient, never forgets the pain of the ring. The injuries started stacking up in the ring. Hearns faced numerous hand surgeries because of the brutal punishment his fists took over the years. His long reach and devastating hooks were his signature moves, but they didn't come without a price. Injuries, wear and tear on the joints, and constant hits in the ring. His nose had taken some serious hits, broken more than once in the ring. His facial bones absorbed countless blows from legends like Hagler and Leonard, each strike leaving an unseen scar that would gradually unveil itself as the years rolled on. As he stepped into his late 40s and early 50s, the crowd couldn't help but notice the shifts in his game. His speech started to drag, his voice faded, and there were clear signs of memory slipping away. Some speculated whether he was facing the early signs of neurological issues, the type frequently linked to the toll of repeated blows in the ring. Yet, despite all the odds, Hearns kept stepping into the ring and battling on. He stepped into the ring for fights on smaller cards and less prominent venues. The dazzling arenas of Caesars Palace and Madison Square Garden were now just a memory. Instead, he was stepping into the ring at casinos and local arenas. Some called it a tough break, others hailed it as a bold move. But those in his corner say there was another force in the ring. Thomas just couldn't find a way to throw in the towel. Boxing was more than just a career. It was the very essence of who he was. The idea of stepping out of the ring, of living life as just another spectator, scared him more than any knockout blow ever could. He strapped on the gloves time and time again, pushing through the pain even when his body screamed for him to quit. In the locker room, his crew started to feel the pressure mounting. Promoters and friends pushed him to hang up the gloves to protect what remained of his health. But Hearns was always a fighter, and true fighters never back down without a battle. Even as the lights dimmed, he stood tall like the true champion he had always been, fierce, relentless, and ready to take on any challenge. But by the 2000s, the impact was clear as day. The fighter who once struck fear into the hearts of his opponents with his devastating knockout power now faced the harsh reality of struggling to walk without pain. The once quick and clever fighter often appeared aloof and absent-minded. And while the crowd still cheered for him, many didn't realize the depth of his struggles in the ring. The price of glory, it appeared, was finally being paid. And Hearns was giving it his all, sacrificing every ounce of his body and mind in the ring. While Thomas Hearns electrified fans with his explosive performances in the ring, his financial battles outside of it were a whole different kind of showdown. This was a fight he was never truly ready for. Like many fighters who come from humble beginnings, Hearns had climbed to incredible heights during his prime. He raked in millions by headlining pay-per-view bouts, landing lucrative endorsement deals, and being a key player in the sport's golden age. But the cash ran out fast. As the years rolled by, the headlines started to change in the ring. Not from the glory of knockouts and championship belts, but from the struggles of debts, lawsuits, and financial turmoil. By the mid-2000s, it was reported that Hearns was in the ring battling serious legal disputes over taxes and unpaid earnings. He had been in the ring with multiple IRS liens. By 2010, it was widely reported that he was in the ring with a hefty debt, owing over $400,000 in back taxes. Some insiders in the ring suggested that the number was even more impressive. Hearns didn't back down. He openly admitted that errors were made in the ring, not just by the trainers and corner men, but by himself as well. He acknowledged that he wasn't zeroed in on the money aspect of his career. As he put in the hard work, stepped into the ring, and motivated his fans, others were making choices that would ultimately put him at risk. The most gut-wrenching moment was witnessing the gradual fade of one of the sport's most legendary fighters. Supporters who used to witness him stride into the squared circle under the dazzling arena lights now encountered a transformed figure. A lean fighter riding the bus in Detroit, dressed in casual gear, keeping a low profile before the big match. It was a real shocker. The fighter who once stood in the spotlight of epic bouts, sharing the ring with legends, was now just another face in the crowd of the city streets he once conquered. Fans who spotted him often approached with a sense of awe. Some fans were skeptical that it was truly him stepping into the ring. There were no major press conferences, no explosive memoirs, no grand farewell tour. Hearns stepped back from the spotlight, making rare appearances at boxing events, often showing signs of age that belied his years. Some in the ring reached out, rival fighters, up-and-coming contenders, matchmakers, but insiders reveal that Hearns' fierce pride held him back from seeking assistance. He wasn't looking for sympathy in the ring. He wasn't looking for any freebies. He aimed to be celebrated for the fighter he was in the ring, not the one battling quietly beyond the ropes. "I was never in it for the cash," Hearns once stated in a rare interview. "I was in the ring because that was my whole life." And that truth resonates in every round of his journey. Thomas Hearns stepped into the ring not for the cash, but for the love of the sport. He stepped into the ring to fight for his life, to break free from the chains of poverty, and to pay tribute to the family and city that shaped him into a warrior. But the crowd that roared for him never showed him how to handle life when the applause faded away. As whispers circulate about his waning health, fans are left wondering, did we fail the Hitman, or did the sport that built him ultimately take him down? By 2021, concerning rumors started to spread about Thomas Hearns' condition. Fans who hadn't seen him in a while were stunned when blurry images emerged, revealing a significantly thinner Hearns, looking frail and needing support to walk. Then came the news of hospitalization. While the family hasn't released an official statement, whispers among insiders in the boxing world have started to circulate about his declining health. Some noted the slurred speech. Some fans reported feeling shaky and often losing their focus, signs that hinted at a potential issue in the ring. There was no confirmation, just the deafening silence of anticipation, and in that silence, tension mounted. Public appearances dwindled, raising eyebrows and fueling worries among fans. When Hearns stepped into the ring at charity events or fight promotions, he looked sluggish, noticeably weak, and often seemed out of it. He sported dark shades even when he was inside the ring, his once powerful voice, now a faint whisper in the ring. Those in his corner put on a tough exterior, but the crowd could see the reality behind the facade. The fighter who once dominated the ring now seemed to be fading under the heavy burden of time and past battles. It was evident to fans that Hearns was no longer the fighter they recalled from the epic battle with Hagler or the stunning knockout of Duran. He had poured his heart and soul into the ring, and now the price was being paid. Then, the year 2025 stepped into the ring. The buzz is heating up. Rumors started flying around the ring that Hearns was in a tough spot, possibly back in the hospital for another round. As his family stayed tight-lipped, the boxing forums and fan communities buzzed with worry and speculation. Reports have surfaced suggesting that Hearns may be facing serious neurological issues, possibly due to CTE, a condition often associated with the relentless punches that come with the sport. CTE has been a shadow over the boxing arena for decades, leaving its mark on icons like Muhammad Ali and Meldrick Taylor. And now many were worried that Hearns was about to meet a similar fate in the ring. Unverified but relentless, the buzz painted a gut-wrenching scene. Supporters who had followed the Hitman's journey now dreaded the thought of seeing him fade away, not in a spectacular showdown, but in a drawn-out, agonizing silence. He left it all in the ring. A fan threw down a viral post, and now he's feeling the heat for it. The buzz was palpable across social media platforms. The fighter who electrified every round, delivering unforgettable moments that defined the sport, has now become a mere shadow of his former self. Regardless of whether the whispers are spot on or blown out of proportion, one thing is clear. The boxing community is on the edge of its seat. Unlike some of his rivals, Thomas Hearns has slipped quietly into the shadows of boxing history. While legends like Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather keep throwing punches in the spotlight with their endorsements, media appearances, and documentaries, Hearns seems to have faded from the limelight, overlooked by the mainstream boxing scene. He may not have a flashy podcast, a hit Netflix special, or $1 million whiskey brand, but he's got the heart of a champion. There are no knockout biopics in the works about his life, no knockout moments bringing him back into the ring. He has slipped through the cracks, a titan of the ring now living in near obscurity. His legacy is definitely something to respect. On the flip side, Hearns' record is nothing short of legendary. He was one of the legendary Four Kings, a six-division world champion, and a fighter who stepped into the ring for some of the most unforgettable bouts in boxing history. Yet the sport that once thrived on his legacy now seldom gives him a shout-out. Younger fans often remember Tyson's time behind bars more than Hearns' epic knockout of Duran. They can rattle off Mayweather's flawless record, but they've never experienced the epic showdown with Hagler. The minimal media attention on Hearns' life, particularly regarding his current state, highlights how the sport respects its seasoned fighters as they age. As Hearns faces tough challenges with his health, it's surprising that so few outlets are stepping into the ring to cover his story. There haven't been any big interviews, no deep dives into the past, and no special tributes to celebrate the legends. The tension in the air has been palpable, and it's sparked a bigger debate in the ring. Why has the sport turned its back on its warriors? Why isn't there a solid plan to make sure that icons like Hearns get the recognition, support, and care they deserve long after they hang up their gloves? The UFC is stepping into the ring with a fighters' union movement in full swing. The NFL and NBA have retirement plans for their players, but in the ring, a fierce sport that demands everything from its warriors, there's almost nothing. Hearns' case has thrown this issue back into the ring once again. He's not the first champion to fade from memory, and unfortunately, he might not be the last to step out of the spotlight. It's a knockout pattern. The cheers die down, the cash flows away, and the boxer stands solitary, bearing the physical and emotional marks of a life dedicated to the ring. Thomas Hearns didn't just claim belts. He brought years of thrilling action, daring moves, and relentless dedication to the ring. It's a real knockout to think he might be battling through tough times without the recognition or support he truly deserves. It's a real eye-opener on how the sport treats its champions when the spotlight fades. Thomas Hearns was a true warrior in the ring. He was a champion in the ring of fatherhood. Ronald Hearns, the son of the legendary fighter, stepped into the ring himself, making his mark as a professional boxer in the mid-2000s. Tall, composed, and technically sharp, Ronald stepped into the ring, embodying the legacy of the Hearns name with the same fierce pride his father showcased decades ago. But being the son of a legend carries a heavy burden, and Ronald had some serious gloves to step into. Their relationship over the years had its highs and lows, often tested by the rigors of the ring, the spotlight of fame, and the personal battles that followed Thomas after his career took a hit. Despite the fierce competition, there was always a profound bond of respect and admiration between the two fighters. Ronald frequently shared stories about the relentless drive his father instilled in him, pushing him to his limits, but he also expressed deep respect for the man who forged the path ahead. Hearns opened up in interviews about the challenges he faced in being there for his kids while navigating his boxing career. Amidst the intense training sessions, nationwide promotional events, and the relentless drive to secure victory, he navigated the challenges of fatherhood, often finding himself learning on the fly and reflecting on missed opportunities. In the later years of his life, after hanging up the gloves and facing his personal challenges, Hearns sought to reclaim the time he felt he had missed. He stepped up as a mentor, guiding not only Ronald, but also a whole crew of young fighters in Detroit, shaping the future of the sport. He was frequently spotted in the gyms, sharing his wisdom, throwing punches in the air alongside young fighters, and instilling in them the discipline needed to rise to the top. The gym remained his sanctuary, and his impact on Detroit's boxing scene was undeniable, even when the spotlight wasn't shining on him. One of his enduring legacies was his role in preserving the spirit of the Kronk Gym. Kronk was more than just a gym. It was a legendary arena where champions were forged in the heat of battle. It stood as a testament to the fighting spirit of the community, especially in a city as tough and unyielding as Detroit. Hearns transformed it into a hallowed ground in the ring, a name that echoes with greatness. Pugilists from every corner of the globe flocked to Kronk to pursue their aspirations, with many following the legendary path of Hearns himself. As the buzz intensifies around his declining health, both fans and fighters are taking a moment to honor his incredible legacy in the ring. Many fans ponder if Thomas Hearns truly understands the impact he has on the sport, on Detroit, on boxing history, and on countless fighters who aspired to emulate his greatness. In a sport that sometimes overlooks its legends as time passes, Hearns is forever ingrained in the very essence of boxing. His legacy goes beyond just the titles in the ring. It's all about the heart of a champion. But as the clock ticks down, some worry that the champ may not be around to see the full extent of his legacy in the ring. The sweet science is both stunning and savage. It builds champions, and then revels in their downfall. The cost of achieving greatness in this ring is unmatched by any other sport. Every championship belt tells a story of grit and sacrifice, marked by the scars of battle. For every roaring crowd, there's a relentless grind that never quits. And in the case of Thomas Hearns, that price is now on full display for all to see. Years of wear and tear on his body, mind, and spirit have turned him into a mere shadow of the fighter who once dominated the ring. Like countless champions before him, Hearns poured his heart and soul into the ring. And now he, just like countless fighters before him, might find himself with nothing left in the ring. The roster of boxing legends who have faced financial ruin, health struggles, or faded into obscurity is extensive and harsh. Joe Louis, a legendary heavyweight champion, passed away in near poverty, a stark contrast to his monumental legacy in the ring. Muhammad Ali spent his final years battling a body that had taken a toll from the relentless fights he endured in the ring, with Parkinson's likely a result of the fierce punishment he faced throughout his legendary career. Meldrick Taylor, a once promising fighter, now faces the tough battle of neurological impairment. It's a trend, one that the boxing world has witnessed all too often, and Hearns, unfortunately, embodies that archetype. His fall from grace isn't surprising to those who follow the ring closely. It's no surprise, because the sweet science demands more than it rewards. Hearns' story has sparked a discussion that the boxing community frequently sidesteps. Where's the backing for our retired champions? What's the deal with the lack of a pension plan? No extended medical coverage? No organized mental health support in the ring? These warriors put it all on the line for the adrenaline of the arena and the pursuit of greatness, only to find themselves alone when their fists can no longer deliver the knockout blow. Some step into the ring as trainers, others establish their own gyms, but many, like Hearns, slip into the shadows until a dramatic turn of events thrusts them back into the spotlight. What fans recall are the epic highlight reels, the devastating right hand that took down Duran, the fierce battle with Hagler, the lightning speed, the raw power, and the intense drama of the ring. But what fans often overlook is the warrior behind those gloves, battling through challenges long after the final round. Thomas Hearns stands as a legendary figure in the ring, but his story also serves as a warning for all aspiring fighters. He embodies the pinnacle of the sport, while also showcasing the harsh realities faced by those who dedicate their lives to it. And yet, through all the ups and downs, Hearns never showed a hint of regret. In a classic interview, he was grilled about whether he'd step back into the ring and do it all again, fully aware of the pain, the health battles, and the financial hurdles he's faced. He took a moment, then flashed a subtle grin. He declared he'd step back into the ring every time, even with the outcome in mind. Those words, delivered with the quiet strength of a true champion, resonate deeply as they unveil the heart of a fighter, someone who stepped into the ring not for the cash or the glory, but for the pure passion of the sport, even if that passion left its scars.